Your people bleed or lead your P&L. This is the most important area. And I think about leading people is like the oil in the car. You don't think about it until something goes wrong.
Advisors are on the move in greater numbers and the clients are following them, and trying to stop that with legal letters and court action is futile, we've seen, and getting harder and less likely. So you lose the advisor, you lose the clients. And it's not just advisors, the talented people within businesses are moving too. This one, we know this because we've seen it. We've read the data and predictions on 1,000 less advisors at the end of 2026. If you look at different predictions on education standards and retirements, demand's going up. We speak to employees of businesses on their behalf. We call it Voice of Business, and we have very deep conversations and find out how they're feeling and find retention risks and themes. Before we get your insights on this, Mark, what do businesses do to be on the right side of it, to attract the best talent? What do you do to not lose your talent in 2026? I'll read two quotes from individual employees within different advice businesses from our one-on-ones. One, people here are good to work with. It still feels like family. We help each other out. There's a runway here. The buy-in structure gives me confidence to stay long-term. That was a positive of someone that's talented, engaged, and plans to stay with an advice business for the next 10 years. Another talented individual in another business that I interviewed, if I'm being honest, throughout the years, there's definitely been times where people are making promises and things don't look like they're happening. And I think I'd be better off going somewhere else. They're having a conversation with us, not their people, not their business. And we're like priest or the lawyer with the privilege. So we share the themes, we don't share the insights. We try and help businesses understand retention, risk, talent. But huge movements. We've already seen a few of advisors moving, whether they've got ownership or not. What's your insight? Because we think this is huge in 2026 and will materially impact business values when you lose talent. You won't lose your clients, but you're going to lose some of your advisors. We've seen it already. What's your thoughts?
My first thoughts is this is a massive topic, and I know and suspect that as a business owner myself and business owners listening to this and those we talk to, it's almost like the proverbial picking up water. Like it's the building the sandcastle on the beach and you dig out the sand and the water rushes up and it fills back in. This is massive. I'm not too sure when this epiphany came to me, but it did, and I keep repeating the same line here. Your people bleed or lead your P&L. So from a business commercial point of view, this is the most important area. And I think about leading people is like the oil in the car. You don't think about it until something goes wrong, right? And then when something goes wrong, it is a mad scramble. That is nearly always too late. This one, more than anything else, is prevention beats cure 10 times. It's just such the no-brainer on this side of 50 than when I was earlier in my career, when it all felt very motherhood and nice to have, and sure, what does it matter if I'm hitting my sales targets and the business is doing well, then everybody's happy. That's the business commercial construct. It is not the human commercial construct. And advice business owners now have three roles, right? The financial planner advisor hat, the business owner hat, and the people leader hat. Business owners need to get this. They are now doing the triathlon, the swim, the bike, and the run. To do that event, you can't do all three at the same time. But you have to focus on all three. You have to allocate time to all three. You have to train all three, and you have to execute all three. And if you don't finish the triathlon, same in business. If you're not doing the financial advising role, putting aside moving into a specialist CEO role, you're not doing the leadership role, and you're not doing the business owner role, then that business is not going to be all it can be. Plain and simple. And that's where you get the leakage. So let's focus on the people leader role. I think of it as the 42K marathon at the end of an Ironman triathlon. You've done the 3.8K swim, right? The advising, you've got onto the bike and it's a 180K bike. You've done the ownership role. I don't have the time. I'm exhausted. That's the gig, the leadership stuff. When we don't focus on, that's when problems start to build, and they're small. They're like the pebble on the shoe. And eventually it blows up at some point where, case in point, business last year, great financial advisor, employed financial advisor, been there for a number of the years, but just never felt quite settled, left, set up their own business, had a non-compete, had all of that stuff in place. The clients 6 months later started moving from business A they followed the advisor, significant revenue hit, all sorts of conversations. But the ultimate, at the end of the day, as our court system now says, the client owns the client. And so that created a lot of commercial impact, but also personal angst that didn't need to be there if things had been done differently up front. Not always, but quite often they can be avoided.
Tips, the few that I'll start with: provide pathways, not promises. The owners think they're providing a pathway and a career development plan, but we talk to the individual advisor who might be wanting to having more of a contribution impact recognised through ownership or LTIs, and they just see it as a promise and they don't know what's next and when they've met the next hurdle. So there's a gap there. We've also seen that businesses and owners rely too heavily on the financial rewards, which are important. You've got to be in the market, but missing the intrinsic reward recognition. And through our interviews last year, thinking of a few right now, sometimes it was the coffee pods, or it's the chairs, or it could be what we might think are small things that are impacting the engagement and the satisfaction. So asking deep questions, being curious, getting into a conversation, investing the time. We had one where the people leader, who was a financial advisor, kept pushing off the meetings or cancelling them and would never do it to a client, but was doing it to a team member. The team member didn't feel valued. Talented individual, they've gone. I love your analogy and the focus on it. Being curious, being deep. Don't think it's all about money. Never assume. Get someone external to ask questions if you can't. We do that for a lot of our clients within the evidentia community, but really focus on it and invest the time. The thing that hit home for me years ago: if you say something's important to you, your diary doesn't lie. So if you say your people are really important and you've got, out of your 60 hours a week, 40 hours is with either clients or your colleagues on the leadership team, and you direct people within across the system you're not spending any time with, you don't really value it because you're not investing enough in it.
I agree with all of those, Brendan. I'm going to add 3 sharp tips to that. The first one is the 30% rule. If you're in that senior leadership role and 30% of your calendar is not with your people, coaching, training, leading, giving feedback, accountability, communicating the business plan, you're below benchmark. Simple 30% rule. Number 2 is clarity of the role. If you're talking people in their 20s and 30s, they're just at the beginning of their career, and it's intimidating talking to a business owner. Imagine someone early in their career in a CSC role going, I'm not really too sure how to do my job. Clarity of the role, not just the role responsibilities, but how to go about doing it. Not such a big issue. It's that 5 mil range, but as you're pushing through that 8 to 12, you need to bust through and break through. This one is really critical. And number 3 is clarity and alignment to the business plan. Only 1 in 4 businesses, we know this number, have a business plan, right? And even less communicate that to their team. And here is the edge. Communication is not, I've got a business plan or a strategy map, it's 1 or 2 pages, and I presented it at a team town hall or meeting. That is not communication. 7 ways, 7 times. Until you hit the 49th, you haven't communicated. Because we sit as owners and as advisors, sit inside these business plans and strategy 24/7, and then we expect a 130-minute session or 45-minute session is going to communicate that to staff members who spend all their time at producing advice. No, you engage them in the development of it. You present it back. Have a working session afterwards where you break down the individual components to get their feedback. You send it out as a document, as a read. You check in on a monthly and a quarterly basis, and you measure how you're going towards it, and you put that up, how you're going. And when I say put it up, not just how you're going to the initiatives, but how's the P&L going? Gobsmacked the number of people, staff members, that have said to us, I'd love to know how the business is going performance-wise. We're pushed here, we're pushed there. Why? And if it's because you might be uncomfortable with the performance of the business, trust me, they know. They know the pricing, they know how many people in the business, they can figure out what the P&L might be like, and you don't want that, oh, I don't know if the business is going to be here, or they're not involving me, therefore they don't trust me, and all of these things culturally. Easily solved with clarity and alignment to the business plan, clarity of what to do in the role and how to do it, and the 30% rule.
Love it. And there's 20 questions we ask team members on behalf of their business, and we won't go through them all, but 2 that go to the top of my list right now in this conversation is, how do you know if you're doing a great job, good job, or not so good a job? And the amount of times the individual pauses and they've got no idea because the feedback is not direct, it's not constructive, they don't have clarity. And the second question, do they have a documented development plan for getting better at the role they're in, and also to help them for future roles they aspire to do? And as we know, extremely rare. I had a conversation, or we talked about this a few years ago. No, do you have a documented plan? No, is the answer. And it's not about the template. We know it's about the engagement and process, but lots to unpack, but hopefully there's a few insights to get people thinking and digging deeper and being curious without trying to solve for these themes. And we'll give some more assistance on how to do that.